Welcome to the In Love with PMDD podcast. I am your host, Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist. Before you ask what PMDD is, it is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. And if you're listening to this podcast, maybe you have PMDD or your partner has PMDD. It doesn't matter. I work with both individuals. And what I do is I give you my strategic trauma transformational tools that help you stop the monthly PMDD breakups, get rid of the stress, the arguing, and the fighting within your luteal phase and every other phase of your cycle. You are not alone in this. I have personally been suffering with premenstrual dysphoric disorder for over 19 years, and I'm here to give you tools on how to stop the monthly PMDD breakups. We got this. I love you. Today, I want to talk to you about the PMDD lens. So a lot of times when you are in PMDD, you are looking at your partner, you're looking at your relationship through the lens of your luteal phase. And I call this the PMDD lens. And so what happens when you have that lens on, when you have that filter on, the way that you experience your partner is different from when you're in your follicular phase, when you're in menstruation, even when you're in ovulation. I know all the times I can literally feel the shift where my partner's not doing anything differently, but the way that I'm looking, not just at them, but at their actions, is completely different. And so the first thing that I really want you to do is to recognize that you have a PMDD lens, meaning the way that I see my partner is going to change when I am in my luteal phase. The sooner you recognize this as a fact, as a symptom of PMDD, the sooner you'll get into that place where you're not going to allow it to ruin your relationship because you're going to recognize what it is. The way that something really impacts your relationship in a negative way is that it catches you off guard, because how many times have you gone off on your partner? How many times have you got mad at your partner? How many times have you got offended at your partner over something that didn't end up being the truth, didn't end up being the reality, but it felt real in the moment? When you're experiencing this in your luteal phase, the reason why you really start to act differently towards your partner is because it feels real. In that moment, when you're in your luteal phase, the way that you're feeling about your partner, the way that you're looking at your partner, the way that you're seeing your whole relationship, it feels real. PMDD is very convincing and will make you think that you should be single, will make you think that you need to break up with your partner, will make you think that this relationship is the one thing that's causing you the most suffering, and that if you didn't have a partner, you could just manage your symptoms better on your own. This is what the PMDD lens will convince you of. And so this is why I always say PMDD is tricking you. PMDD tricks you with the same thoughts every single month. There's this distinct reason why everyone who has PMDD has the same thoughts about breaking up. I just want you to sit with that for a minute. Every single client that I have had has told me that they have felt like breaking up with their partner during their luteal phase. This has nothing to do with the quality of the partner that they have. This has nothing to do with their partner not being supportive. This has nothing to do with their not being compatible, because that's another trick that PMDD will use. Oh, you're just not compatible. You would be more compatible with somebody like this. This means you can have a really great partner that you're actually supposed to be with, that you actually love. And because you're looking at them through the PMDD lens, you can question every decision that you've made in regarding this relationship. You can think about packing up your house, packing up the kids, packing up the dog, and you're so convinced in that moment that that's the right thing to do. And PMDD has a way of making you feel anxious about making a decision about your relationship, because in reality, the arguments and the fights that you've had, do you really have to make a decision right then? No, but PMDD will make you feel like if you want to stop your suffering, that you need to get rid of your partner. PMDD literally tells you that. And so the reason why I'm telling you that this is a symptom of PMDD is because if it had to do with the partner, then there would be partners that are quote unquote supportive PMDD partners, and they wouldn't have those thoughts. And then there would be partners that are not supportive PMDD partners, and they would have those thoughts. But every single client, regardless of how great and how amazing and how supportive their partner is, they still have thoughts about breaking up with their partner. And now for some individuals who suffer with PMDD, they don't just come out and say it. They kind of keep it to themselves because they feel bad, because they don't really have a reason behind it, because their partner genuinely is loving and supportive and emotionally intelligent and all of these things. They just know that they still have those feelings. And a lot of times the partner may not know, but when we come on those private sessions and we really talk about what's going on in your PMDD brain, those thoughts have come up. And there's a level of guilt that you can have for feeling like you want to break up with a partner that literally hasn't done anything. And you almost get into this mindset of you're searching for something negative to go towards that bias, to support that notion in your mind that you should break up. When you have PMDD, when you go into your luteal phase, your brain is automatically searching for the negative. You're in a negative bias, meaning even if your partner is doing something positive, PMDD has a way of turning it into something negative. This is not something that you actually have control of as far as what PMDD is doing to your brain. The best thing that you could do is have awareness of what is going on, because then you can say mantras that I tell my clients to use all the time, and I have to use myself. PMDD is tricking me again. Like, my partner's not maliciously trying to hurt me. PMDD is tricking me again. And the reason why I say it's tricking you, because it's tricking you into believing something different about your partner than it's actual, the reality of it. And so I want to talk to you about the PMDD lens today, because it's based on your brain tricking you through habit when you go into your luteal phase for things that feels true, but it's not actually accurate. It's not an actual fact. And so I often explain it like this. Your brain is trying to protect you. Your PMDD brain is trying to protect you from harm. And when you go into your luteal phase, it thinks that your partner, it thinks that your relationship is something that is harming you. So your PMDD brain is trying to show you all the reasons why you should break up with your partner. It's listing them out. It's saying, we need to get out of here. You're only suffering because of your partner. You're not compatible. You're better off being single. It's not showing you the other edge of the coin of what it would look like to actually break up. I've had so many clients literally go and break up, and then after that, they're miserable. Because in the moment, their PMDD lens, their PMDD brain was telling them that their life was going to be so great. But it doesn't show you the value that your partner actually has. It's not telling you that, financially, they support you in this way. Emotionally, they support you in this way. Physically, they give you affection and make you feel safe and make you feel loved. All of these things are going to be ripped away when you decide to break up with your PMDD partner. But is your brain telling you that? No, it's having you focus on all of the suffering that you're probably still going to have even without your partner. And I always reference, I'm not talking about being with a narcissist. I'm not talking about being with someone who's genuinely abusive. I'm talking about you have a partner that loves and adores you and is trying to navigate being in a relationship with someone that has PMDD, and they're doing the best that they can. Are they going to be perfect? No. Is PMDD going to magnify the ways that they're imperfect? Absolutely. Do you need to know that so it doesn't change your view of your partner? Absolutely. I've had to do this so many times, and it's just a matter of giving your partner the grace to make a mistake without you feeling like this means that we should break up. When you have this PMDD lens on, you have a rigid rule about how your partner or love is supposed to be. There's zero room for humanity. There's zero room for mistakes. There's zero room for even thinking that PMDD has anything to do with it. So you actually think that you're operating through, this is really true. This is how it's supposed to be. So you start saying, our relationship should be like this. My relationship with my partner should be like this. My partner should do this. They should know what I need without me saying it. This is the common misconception, that your partner should just be able to observe you, see a need, and then show up in a way that is beneficial to you, that makes you feel supported, that makes you feel loved. That's what you're saying. You're saying that they should. Who said that that's what their love looks like? How many times have you generalized what your relationship should be like instead of recognizing what it actually is? You may say things like, I shouldn't feel this way. If the relationship was right, I would never be feeling this way. I shouldn't feel this way. Who says that you shouldn't? There's going to be times where you have doubts, where you have fears in your relationship. Does that mean that you're not supposed to be with your partner? No. It means that there's a situation that's bringing up something that's bringing up doubt. Those are emotions that can come and go. Your relationship should be rock solid, regardless of the emotions that you have, especially during your luteal phase. You should not be easily shaken every single time your PMDD lens, your PMDD brain tells you that you need to break up. Because then you're putting yourself through emotional distress if you're allowing PMDD to just hold your brain like puppet strings and whisper something in your ear, whisper something in your mind. You start having this thought and you automatically think it's a fact. Your thoughts are not facts. Your feelings are not facts. Just because you feel something doesn't mean that you have to act on it, especially in your luteal phase. And a lot of times you may be thinking, oh, I should be healed by now. I should be further along. I shouldn't still be feeling this way about my relationship. Who said that? There are ebbs and flows in every relationship, whether you have PMDD or not, but especially if you have PMDD. You don't have to beat yourself up and say how you should be. And you need to recognize where you are and what you need to work on and what your partner needs to work on and what you all need to work on together. Just because you're working on something in your relationship doesn't mean that it's not working. And I'm going to repeat that. Just because you are working on something in your relationship doesn't mean that your relationship is not working. No one wants to hear this, but relationships take work. This is what we do with my private clients. It takes work. It takes effort. There is very little things that you can get in this world that you do not have to work for. Being a parent, being a role of a parent takes work. The role of a dog mom, it takes work. Being an employee takes work. So the fact that you think that your relationship should not take work means you have a cognitive distortion. You have this thing in your mind that's telling you how your relationship should be. And if you don't get rid of that should, then maybe you should not be in a relationship because there is going to be ups and downs. And the fact that you are making that into a negative thing, it means you have that cognitive distortion where you're putting yourself with unrealistic expectations in the relationship. There is nothing that says that you should not have an issue with your partner ever, that you should not have a disagreement, that you should not have an argument, that you should not have a fight. There are ways that you can navigate those things, but just putting it out there and saying, oh, if my relationship was great, then we should not be arguing. We should not be fighting. We should not be working so hard on this relationship. Who told you that? Really think about that, because when you get rid of that should, then it allows everything that's real in your relationship to actually flow without you freaking out and thinking that you need to break up because you're actually working on your relationship. And then you may have these thoughts, oh, they should be better during my luteal phase. They should be better during PMDD. They should understand how I'm feeling. How are they going to understand how you're feeling? Do they have PMDD? If someone does not have PMDD, they're not going to understand how you feel. And there's no way that they should understand how you feel, because the level of suffering that you go through in premenstrual dysphoric disorder in your luteal phase is not something that you can just describe to them and they know exactly how you feel. They can empathize with your suffering, but if they haven't experienced it, then there's no way that they should know. They're only going off of what you said. If someone had cancer and they went through chemo and then they came out of chemo and tried to describe to you about the chemo treatments, and you're sitting there and you're listening to them and they're telling you that they're suffering, that their hair's falling out, all of these things, you can listen and empathize and say, wow, that sounds horrible. But unless you've actually sat in that chair and had that chemo going through your body, you're never going to know how they're fully feeling in that experience. So there's no way that your partner should know the level of suffering that you're in just by observing you. There's no way, because they're not feeling it in their mind. They're not feeling it in their body. They're not feeling it when they go through their day-to-day life and how it's a struggle to do certain things. When they just go to do the simple things and it's a struggle, they should not understand that because they don't have premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So get that out of your mind as far as a prerequisite, as far as, they should be more supportive. And they should just know what it is that they need. If they love me, they wouldn't do this. That is a prerequisite. That is what you are putting on your relationship. That is what you are putting on your partner. They can still love you and not do what it is that you have in your mind that they should do. They can still love you. Just because they're not doing what you think that they should be doing in their mind doesn't mean that they don't love you, doesn't mean that they don't care about you. I counsel so many partners who care so deeply and are trying to get it right, trying so hard to get it right. And they're consistently being told that they're getting it wrong because there's always this, you should be doing this and you should be doing that. Or last month I told you about this, you should have remembered. There's a lot that's going on with them. They don't experience premenstrual dysphoric disorder. They have their own things going on. They might have PTSD. They might have past trauma in the past. They may be stressed out at work. They may be sick. There's all of these things that could be going on with your partner that's preventing them from showing up in the way that they should be. But if you don't take the time to communicate with them what you actually need because you're holding it over their head, what they should be doing, you're going to be creating tension in your relationship where they're not going to want to even help you or be supportive to you because you're telling them that they're consistently getting it wrong. So 5 ways that these should statements, really mess with your relationship is because it creates these silent expectations. You're expecting your partner to be a mind reader, and then you feel disappointed when it doesn't happen. Your PMDD lens, your PMDD brain is very particular with what it wants from your partner, what it wants in the relationship, because you can go through a scenario and you can clearly see what you want your partner to do. And instead of communicating that, you're just programming it in your brain. And then you're waiting to see if they're going to do it. And then when they don't do it, you get so upset and so disappointed, and you end up having this silent treatment with them because you're consistently thinking about them not doing something that you never asked them to do. And then by the time that you bring it up, it comes up in an argument. And then you're like, well, why didn't you do this? And why didn't you, put the gas in the car? You knew that I was tired. Or why didn't you pick up the kids? Or why didn't you offer to do this? And why didn't you ask? Drop your pride, drop your ego, and ask for what it is that you need in your relationship, and stop expecting your partner with these should statements and putting it in your mind of what they should do. Whenever you have really thought about this, and I want you to catch yourself. Am I expecting my partner to do something that I've never asked them to do, and then being disappointed, and then treating them different, and really giving them the silent treatment? And then they're asking you what's wrong because they notice that your vibe is off, and you're like, nothing. It is something. It's you created something in your mind that you felt like they should do, and then they didn't do it. And then you created a story in your mind about what it meant for them to not do that. They must not love me because they didn't do that. They must not love me or care about me. They don't really care about me like that because they didn't show up for me in the way that they should have. You placed the should expectation, not them. They don't have that going through their mind. They don't have it going through their mind exactly what it is that they're supposed to be doing. And the next thing you can do is you can turn emotions into evidence. If I feel this way, something must be wrong. If you feel like you want to break up with your partner, that does not mean that you should break up with your partner. Let me just say that. If you feel that this relationship is not working, does not mean that this relationship is not working. That is a feeling that you have about the relationship. The question is, what are you going to do about that feeling? Instead of getting curious and saying, I wonder why I feel this way. You go straight into judgment. Oh, that never would have popped up in my mind if it wasn't true. Yes, it would have. Thoughts pop up in your mind all the time, especially if you have PMDD. Thoughts are going to pop up in your mind. Negative thoughts are going to pop up in your mind the whole time. That does not mean that they're true. And the next thing that can happen is it erases your reality. When you have this PMDD lens on, it literally erases what's actually going on, and it replaces you with this PMDD lens of negative things that are really going on. So the shoulds ignore the fact that you are in PMDD. You shame yourself for your symptoms instead of supporting yourself through it. I shouldn't be this tired. I shouldn't be, I should not feel that I don't want my partner to touch me. I should not feel that the fact that my partner is breathing annoys me. I should not feel that the fact that my partner is snoring, it triggers me. I should not feel triggered by my partner. Yes, you should. Those things are triggering you in your luteal phase for a reason. Does that mean that you're not supposed to be with them? No. If you have misophonia, which is a symptom of PMDD, which is a sensitivity to noise, then it should bother you if your partner is snoring. It should bother you if they're slamming the doors and they're not really doing it on purpose. All of those things should bother you. Does that mean that they're doing it on purpose? No. Does that mean that you're supposed to break up? No. Stop putting the pressure on yourself to not have the symptoms that you actually have when you're diagnosed with premenstrual dysphoric disorder. And so the next thing that it does when you have this PMDD lens on is it replaces needs with criticism. A need sounds like, I need reassurance. There's nothing wrong with that. I need reassurance. I need for my partner to give me more affection. I need my partner to give me more attention. I need my partner to be more supportive. Nothing wrong with that. But when you're going through your PMDD lens, you're saying, oh, you should already be supporting me. You should already be reassuring me. You should already be giving me more affection. You should already be giving me more attention. You should already be giving me more validation. When you tell your partner what they should be doing, it makes them want to do less. When you put the requirement that they should be at a certain level and you're not acknowledging the level that they actually are, the effort that they actually are, giving them gratitude for what they're actually doing and just telling them what they should be doing, it makes them do less. It's counterproductive to you getting what you actually want. You make your partner repelled by you when you're in your luteal phase, whether they say it to you or not, because you're always telling them what they should be doing. You're emotionally beating them up. You're making them feel bad. You're making them feel like they could never get it right because you're always telling them what they should be doing. And the last thing that you're doing is you're making love conditional. If you love me, you should do this. If you love me, you should do that. There's nothing that said that. Stop putting those placements there because your brain is literally thinking that that's true because you're creating these boundaries and then your brain is like, okay, so if they love her, then this is what it's going to look like. This is how they're going to show up. When your partner could be showing up completely different with love, with care, with concern, with support, but it doesn't look like what your brain, your PMDD lens is saying that it should look like. So the first thing that I'm going to give you these trauma transformational tools, and I use them all the time with my clients. If you need more, go to inlovewithpmdd.com. If you want this customized, because this is when I work with my private clients, go get those sessions. There's going to be some open for the month of February, but here we go. So the first thing I want you to do is ask yourself, who taught me this? Who taught me that this is how love should work in my PMDD relationship? Who taught me that this is what my partner is supposed to do? When you ask yourself that question, you're going back in your brain, you're causing your PMDD lens to come off a little bit because you are going back to where this originated. Where is the root of this should? Everybody has different shoulds. That's why I say if you need this customized, we can work privately together. But everybody has shoulds that are stuck in their brain. And this creates a level of dissatisfaction with your partner. But we have to really dig deep and say, where is this coming from? Is this coming from your childhood? Is this coming from past relationships? Is this coming from trauma? Oh my gosh, is this coming from social media, which is so, when you're in your luteal phase and you're seeing all of these quotes and these podcasts and these things that are saying what your relationship should be like, and you start comparing it to what your relationship actually is, you're all of a sudden unhappy with your relationship because what do they say? Comparison is the thief of joy. This is so true in PMDD relationships. If you are comparing your relationship to what you see on social media, you will 100% be dissatisfied and feel like you need to break up with your partner because you're magnifying what you see without seeing behind the scenes of what's really going on in those social media relationships. You don't really know what's going on. And I'm a counselor and I counsel a lot of happy couples that it looks like they're happy on the outside and they're really not. They're miserable. But nobody goes on social media and puts out their misery. That's not the point of it, right? You don't get the dopamine hit by seeing how horrible somebody's relationship is. So I want you to swap the should for the I need. Instead of saying they should know what I need, you communicate calmly, lovingly. I need reassurance right now. And you tell yourself, and I can ask for that. Drop the pride, drop the ego, and needs build intimacy. When you tell your partner what you need, you're building intimacy with them. When you tell your partner what they should do, it's building walls of resentment because it makes them feel like you're ungrateful for what they actually are doing. So then I want you to do the PMDD reality check. Would I feel this way outside of my luteal phase? This is so important because it brings you to a state of awareness. Specifically state what your partner is doing and say, would this really bother me if I wasn't in PMDD? I have to do this all the time. I'm acknowledging that I'm feeling a certain way. Absolutely. But then I ask if they did the same thing a week from now when I'm in my follicular days, would this really bother me? A lot of times the answer is no, because it's like, I wouldn't even be looking into this situation this deep. I wouldn't be thinking about this. I wouldn't have this PMDD lens on. It would have been no big deal for me. So should I punish my partner for something that they're doing and it just happens to be in the luteal phase, where if it was in a different phase of my cycle, I probably wouldn't care and it wouldn't bother me. And I wouldn't have this level of doubt and fear and resistance and resentment and all of these things. Ask yourself that should statement. If the answer is probably not, pause on acting on it and just be aware of it. I feel this way, but I probably wouldn't feel this way if I wasn't in my luteal phase. And what it does, it creates time between the thought and your actual reaction. You take the time to process how you're feeling. You're not ignoring it or pretending or shaming yourself for it, but you're not reacting to the feeling because you know that if you weren't in your luteal phase, you probably wouldn't feel that way. And so the next thing I want you to do is replace the rules that you have for your relationship in your mind. Like, they should always do this. They should always be this way. They should always do this. Stop saying it and just start reframing it and saying, I prefer when my partner does this. There's nothing wrong with having a preference. Preference allows flexibility. I'm still going to love you whether you do this or not. I know for me, a big thing is texting or calling me before you go to bed. I prefer when my partner does that. Does my partner always do that? No. It doesn't mean that they don't love me, that they don't care about me, that they don't like me. No, that's not what it means. Does it feel that way sometimes? Yes, it does. But that's my feeling based off of my should in my mind. That is not the responsibility of my partner to meet all of my shoulds. It's my responsibility for allow my partner to be free within the relationship and feel like they can actually be themselves and not be walking on eggshells. And the last thing I want you to do is to name it out loud. Name your should out loud and say it. This is a should statement. It's not a fact. Whenever you get something in your mind and you feel like it's causing you to act or think differently about your relationship, literally say to yourself, this is the should statement. It's not a fact. It's the should statement. Label it, meaning you're naming it in order to tame it. When you label it, it's like ripping the blanket off of it. It's not going to trick you if you're aware of what it is. Tricking you means you're not questioning it. You're just believing that it's true. So PMDD doesn't mean that your standards are wrong. It doesn't mean that, everything that you're thinking in your mind is not true in that moment. It feels true, but that doesn't mean that it is. Your feelings are not facts, and you need to remember that in your PMDD relationship so that it doesn't do damage. So if this is something that you know that you need help with, and you know that you've been doing these should statements and you're listening to this and you're like, Dr. Rose, I do this all the time. We have to break these habits by digging deep to really see what your should statements are, where they came from, and rewiring your PMDD brain so it can stop tricking you. So if this is something you need help with, go to inlovewithpmdd.com. I will see you in those private sessions. And until next time, we got this. I hope these PMDD trauma transformational tools in this episode today helped you and your PMDD partner. If you're listening to this and you know that you need help further, you need customized PMDD relationship advice, go to inlovewithpmdd.com, get those counseling sessions. And until next episode, we got this. I love you.